The Sound of Magic ending explained. Well, do you believe in magic? This show most definitely centered around that question, and even right up until the final moment, that question was the last thing we heard. So with that, I thought I'd take a look back at the ending of the show and explain what happened and what it meant. So let's find out. Here is The Sound of Magic ending explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. As we embarked onto the final episode of the show, we'd spent the majority of it watching Yunayi and Il-jong meeting with the magician to learn the art of magic. However, it had become clearer and clearer that the missing girl that we often saw glimpses of, Sahayun, was discovered in the river. All fingers pointed towards the magician due to this mysterious nature around him and the circumstantial evidence that they had. It was here where we actually found out the identity of him. The question that was on all of our minds throughout the entirety of the show. The magician was in fact a 30-year-old man called Min-hyuk, and he'd previously been in a psychiatric ward when he was younger. This added to the weight of the blame that was being thrown at him. A man claiming to be a magician and believing in magic, who once had an unstable mind roaming free in an abandoned amusement park, talking to children didn't come across as a good look, so you could understand why the fingers were being pointed. And at that point, I did also question who the character actually was. We saw him get arrested and then eventually go on to escape with the use of magic. He ended up back at the amusement park where we saw the climax of the show. Yunayi was witnessing him perform tricks to aid his conversation with the police, and after he was about to get taken in, he made it snow inside and handed his hat over to Yunayi, which showed the passing over of the mantle, due to the fact that she did truly believe and was the one of not many. From there, we saw her throw her cape over him after hearing that if she said the magic words, what was in her mind would come true. And from that moment, he simply disappeared, just like he made Dosik disappear earlier on in the episode. A bit of time had passed, and then the revelation then happened further on down the line. And it was that Dosik was the person who murdered Sahayun in the amusement park and tried to frame the magician. He had his own cape and hat to mirror what the magician looked like, and he was also the mugger that committed the crime a few episodes earlier. He was committing crimes and appearing as the magician. A camera that had not worked in years switched on and captured it all on camera. We saw the butterfly land on the camera and turn it on when the revelation occurred. After this, we then went on to see Yunayi a few years later as an adult, attending college, and she's now writing to the magician and posting it in the magic letterbox. She does this to people that she cares about, just like we saw her doing with her mum all throughout the show. She's now a magician, and she goes on to say how she wants to go on to be a good adult, something she never experienced in her life other than him. He is her role model. As she was stating the final monologue, she said the lines that we heard all throughout the show, and then his voice coming in and accompanying her as they said, "Do you believe in magic?" as the show then cut to black. I thought this ending meant a couple of different things. We saw the fear of growing up and turning into what one would call a boring adult as a recurring theme quite a lot in the show. The adults that had been in Yunayi's life had always caused trouble, her mum abandoning her, her father being absent, and her employer being abusive, so she never really had a positive impact in her life. It is here where we saw that the only adult in her life that was caring was the magician, somebody who despite being an adult acted like a child, in the sense that he wasn't extremely serious or inappropriate towards her. He embodied what she wanted to be like and also what Il-jong wanted. He was almost a replica of what the magician was when he was younger before he had his breakdown. A top student who had amazing grades and potential, but didn't want a life like that. The pressure from others got too much and he eventually cracked, just like we saw happen to Il-jong. The question around magic being real or not is something that I think is symbolic of the embodiment of not growing up. The adults in their life don't quite see the magic like that. For example, Dosik being pushed off of the cliff, whereas us and the believers saw the trick actually unfold as one would expect, and in the eyes of what magic is. Like they said earlier on, magic is the art of deception. We saw the people that do actually believe and have that specific outlook on life can find happiness. Min-hyuk was a top student who had the potential to be anything he wanted, but he chose a life of magic that didn't bring riches, but it brought something far more valuable, and that was happiness. And that's what we saw with Yunayi. She struggled for money all throughout the show, but when she found magic, her outlook changed and she was a lot happier. The butterfly, I feel, symbolizes happiness, as we heard Unagi state that at the end of the show, and we saw all throughout the 6 episodes that it would arrive when the magic was happening. So where is the magician? Well, that's one thing I don't think we'll ever know. If we're saying that the magic is real, which in all cases when watching it was, he could quite literally be anywhere. That's the beauty of it. The magic and Peter Pan-esque feel of never growing up is something that is stuck true with the 2 main characters, and they'll likely go on to embody that too as they progress forward with their life. They no longer see the value and happiness in a stressful career or thrive to become one of the ordinary adults that have been around their life, but instead they look to find it in the simple things that one appreciated when younger and then carrying that through to adulthood. What did you think of the show? Did you enjoy it? Leave a comment down below, and don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.